Hi guys, so this is the first of a few videos that we're going to have just to kind of give you guys a little bit extra help in case you didn't get everything in class or you just want to rewatch these when you're gone or before a test. So this is just a recap of what we did today. So the first thing we talked about was how to draw an angle, and the first thing we looked at was every angle has two things. You have an initial side and you have a terminal side. Your initial side is where you're starting from, and your terminal side is where you end. And I'm going to try to have the best handwriting on this I can, but I am still getting used to it, so it's not going to be great right now. So whenever you measure, you always start at the initial side, your arrow goes to your terminal side. So if this would be like a 45-degree angle from my initial to my terminal side. Then we also kind of reviewed. We looked at the names of the different quadrants and the numbers of our quadrants. So if you guys remember back like 7th grade when you guys learned this, in that top right corner you've got 1, and then 2, 3, and 4. So they go in that order of a C. So we're at 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, and 270, and then all the way around it's going to be 360. And that's going to help us figure out where to draw some of these angles when we start them. So we're going to go back over those same examples that we did today in case you missed them. So the first thing we did was we started by drawing a 137-degree angle. So we know since that's between 90 and 180, that's going to have the terminal side in quadrant 2. So we drew our terminal side, and then we started at 0 and drew our arrow, and it's a very ugly version of it, but that is 137 degrees. Alright, so now we're going to do a negative angle. So if I am drawing a negative 60 degrees, I'm just going in the opposite direction. So I still start with my terminal side at 0, but going 60 degrees clockwise, I'm going to end in quadrant 4. I need to use the pen instead. So I'm ending in quadrant 4, and my arrow is going in the opposite direction. So that's a negative 60-degree angle. All right, if I have something like 500 degrees, that is bigger than 360, so I need to find what this angle is going to look like. So I'm going to subtract 360, and that puts me at 140 degrees. And I know where 140 degrees is going to be. And that's going to have a terminal side in quadrant 2, but because I subtracted 360, I went around in a full circle before I ended there. That circle right there makes the difference between 140 degrees and 500 degrees. And then the last one we looked at was a negative 223 degrees. So if I look at this one, if I go in that counterclockwise direction, I'm going to have to go more than 180 degrees, but not quite to 270 degrees. So in the negative direction, a negative 270 would be right there in the same place as 90. So I'm going to go in the negative direction, and I'm going to end at 223. So something that 137 and negative 223, if you look at them, although we didn't draw the terminal sides perfectly, these two angles actually end in the exact same place, even though one of them I'm going in the positive direction, and for one I'm going in the negative direction. What we refer to these two angles as is coterminal angles. Okay, so coterminal angles, those are angles that end in the same place. So for example, we had 137 degrees and negative 223 degrees were coterminal. So let's say I start with a 20-degree angle, and I want to find an angle that is coterminal to 20 degrees. There's a couple different ways I can do it. First of all, I know if I go in the negative direction and end at the same place, that's also going to be coterminal. And I know that those two angles have to add up to 360 because that's a full circle. So going in the negative direction, I'd be going a negative 340 degrees. So 20 and negative 340 are coterminal. what we talked about today, the easiest way to find a coterminal angle, you actually did it on that third example before, is simply just to add or subtract 360, since that's a... So if I wanted to find another coterminal angle to 20 degrees, I could add 360. So if I added 360 degrees, then 380 degrees would also be a coterminal angle. So to draw that angle, remember, if I go that full circle, I have to make the whole circle around and then I end at 20 degrees. So 20 and negative 340 and 380 are all coterminal angles. Now with coterminal angles, there's actually an infinite number of answers. I can add or subtract 360 as many times as I want to find however many I want. But we're just going to find one more coterminal angle. So we already have 20, negative 340, and 380. So to find another angle, I'm going to subtract 360 again from negative 340, and that's going to give me negative 700 degrees. In order to draw negative 700, I have to think, first of all, which direction I'm going in. I know it's going to end at 20 degrees because they're coterminal. They end at the same place. But I'm going in the negative direction for a full circle, and then I'm ending at that terminal side. So that would be drawing negative 700 degrees. But again, what to remember is coterminal end at the same place, and the easiest way to find a coterminal angle is simply to add or subtract 360. And that's it, guys. So this is just a little recap on what we did today, and I'll be posting these in the future before we actually go over this stuff. If you want to listen to it ahead of time or after, it's just an extra resource for you guys. So I will see you in class tomorrow.